Bay. It'll be a battle of heavyweights as last season's co-MVPs square off. Barry's Lions seek consistency, while Brett's Packers seek redemption. A new era begins in Big D, where Emmett hopes to return to greatness. 1, 2, 3, the JETS Jets soar into San Francisco, where Steve Young of the Niners welcome back number 80.
After being together for so many years, the chemistry is just...
The Colts and Chargers hope their first glimpse into the future is front as Manning and Leaf make their debut. Last year, the Giants were the beast of the East.
We'll put it in that debate.
Can Dana and Big Daddy put the Skins back on top? And Ricky's back in Philly. It's not a revenge tour.
I don't look at it as a personal thing.
The season begins now on Sunday NFL Countdown. Well, you just never know who's going to walk in off the street, do you? Those are our friends, Hootie and the Blowfish, and they're going to be with us, playing their tunes, playing our tunes, playing your tunes, talking some football with Darius and the guys, and we shall have some fun. It's a surreal experience here, and in our 12th season, let me introduce my band here on NFL Countdown, playing lead guitar once again, Guitar Tom Jackson. A new entry on Sunday mornings on the keyboards, Mike Tirico, pounding Mike Tirico.
Nice to jam with you.
Nice. Good sound now. Keep it, though, in A-flat. On the synthesizer this morning, and believe me, he synthesizes it all, Chris Mortensen.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Watch the sausage. Bass guitar from the crib, South Carolina, like these guys, Sterling Sharp.
I know from D.
And on the drums this year, we're proud to welcome an old-time friend, the only quarterback ever to lead a team to 4 straight Super Bowls, Jammin' Jim Kelly. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. What a line I have here now, Chris.
Yeah.
Well, you're the quarterback now, though.
You need me on the blind side, though, I think. Remember that quarterback line. It'll come in handy this year, Jim. Remember who's throwing the passes. Go out deep. We've all been eagerly awaiting a kickoff weekend 98, where never before have we had games that mean so much out of the gate. 10 of the 15 games are divisional matchups this weekend. Let's sweep the stadiums, starting in Dallas with our newest member on our NFL Countdown, longtime NFL correspondent Ed Werder.
Thanks, Chris. Glad to be here. You know, the Cardinals have never beaten a Troy Aikman quarterback team at Texas Stadium. In fact, they've lost 14 of the last 15 overall meetings with the Cowboys. But the Cardinals have a new defensive weapon after signing first-round draft pick Andre Wadsworth last night.
For the first time since 1971, the Redskins traveled to an away game by train. New addition defensive tackle Dan Wilkinson joked it was because of budget cuts the team had to make after signing Dana Stubblefield. We'll check in on the Redskins' $57 million investment.
Here in Philadelphia, the Eagles are bracing for the return of Ricky Waters, whose new team, the Seattle Seahawks, have only one opening day victory in the last 9 seasons. Both teams may be without key starters. Seattle, middle linebacker Dean Wells, the Eagles, running back Charlie Garner.
The best from the AFC Central last year against the division's worst. But the 98 version of the Ravens have a revamped offense, a stronger defense, and a brand new state-of-the-art football stadium.
I'm Hank Goldberg in Chicago, where the Bears woke up this morning to read headlines about how they could go 0 for 16. They'll have their work cut out today. Jacksonville, a Super Bowl projected team, is in town.
Here in Minnesota, head coach Dennis Green is armed with a new contract extension, but we'll talk about the marquee matchup, the Vikings' unstoppable offense against the Buccaneers' immovable defense. Now let's head back to the studio and Boomer and the Blowfish.
The blowhards more often than not, Andrea. We're going to have a good time, and we'll get all back to everybody out at the ballparks in a short while. Last year, 4 teams from our very, very favorite division, the NFC North, made the playoffs. As you just saw, 2 of them, the Bucs and Vikes, square off. The other 2 go mano-a-mano as well today. For the 138th time with feeling, it's the Packers and the Lions on the soon-to-be frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. I've waited 8 months to do that. Where the Packers won a mere 27 straight games. All we have on display here, 2-time NFC champs and the 2 co-MVPs from last year, Brett Favre and Barry Sanders. All Brett's done, 130 TD passes in the past 3 regular and postseasons. All Barry did last year, ran for 2,053 yards, the second best total in NFL history. To Lombardi Avenue we go with Ron Jaworski. Jaws?
Thank you, Boomer. Herman Moore has been a question mark all week. I spoke to him on Wednesday, and he said if he makes the trip to Green Bay, he will play. Well, he made the trip to Green Bay. After watching Moore at practice on Friday, it was clear to Bobby Ross that the question was not if Moore will play, but how long will he last?
The last day of practice, I saw him really accelerate for a ball, which I had not seen him do before. He looked like his old self there now. Now, whether or not he can do that for 65 to 70 plays remains to be seen.
The Packers have two starters who will see their first game action today. Wide receiver Robert Brooks missed the entire preseason after back surgery. He practiced all week and will start today. As will Dorsey Levens, who also missed the entire preseason in a contract dispute. He has had intensive individual workouts, but the question is he in football shape?
It's hard to tell until I get on the field. You know, even during the season, no matter how great a shape I was in last year, I still got tired during the game. So I'm going to get tired regardless. So it's just a matter of, you know, how fast I recover, I think.
Contrary to what people thought I said, I don't want to hit him with a baseball bat, but he's missed that part of it at the end of his little training thing. Someone hitting him with something. That's what happens in a football game.
The Lions would like to stop their recent trend of starting the season slowly. That has been a priority for Bobby Ross in the preseason, especially after he looked at the schedule and saw that 6 of his first 7 games were against NFC Central opponents.
You know, I've played our veterans a little bit longer in exhibition games. Not much more, but certainly more. We've played our quarterback more in the exhibition season, gotten him more playing time than what he had last year at this time. Even Barry has been in a little bit more than what he was in previous years, with all of that being the intention of trying to come out of the chute better.
If we can start fast and finish like we normally do, which is also fast, I think we have a good chance of getting home field advantage for the playoffs.
Lions corners Kevin Abrams and Bryant Westbrook have switched sides. Abrams moving from the right side to the left, and Westbrook moving from the left side to the right. Abrams has struggled in the preseason at that left cornerback spot. Boomer, you can expect to see Brett Favre attack Abrams early and often.
You would think so, Jaws. Thank you very much. Well, last year at this time in Sterling, I remember we sat here, week 1 show last year. Of course, we had the Beatles on set, but this is pretty close. You said run more than the pass, and that comes from one of the most prolific receivers that we've had. Now, the biggest news out of Green Bay this year, not, Brett Favre, what is Robert Brooks back? Dorsey Levens, was he coming back? So they know the importance of the run.
The last time we saw Dorsey Levens with 11 minutes left in the Super Bowl was his last football carry. Ladies and gentlemen, the blueprint for success is the Packers in this football game. They have got to get out and run the football, because here's what's going to happen this year. The ball's going to be taken out of the hands of the quarterbacks, put in the hands of the offensive line with the tight end, fullback, let the running back carry it 200 or 300 times per year. Tommy? The blueprint for success. If you want one of these, you got to run the football.
Sterling, not everybody has that. Well, not everybody has that blueprint. Last year, only 7 teams ran the ball more than they passed it. 6 of those teams went to the playoffs. The exception was the Tennessee Oilers, who ended the season 8-8. If you run the football and create preferable down and distance situations for your quarterback, you make it awfully difficult for the defense. It is a no-brainer.
Well, Tommy, what's a no-brainer? It happens every year in the league. You emulate the Super Bowl champions. Yes. The Denver Broncos didn't get there on John Elway's arm last season. They got it on Terrell Davis's leg. So what is the flip side of that? You got to stop the run. I look at 2 teams, Jacksonville and Minnesota, spent a lot of time in the offseason figuring out how to stop the run. If they solve that, I think the Jaguars and Vikings are playing in the Super Bowl.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. But I think the biggest question this year is who's going to carry that quarterback torch.
Quarterbacks.
Oh,
okay.
Well, you have to talk quarterback. I mean, hey, I know well. But I think the biggest question mark is, in the next few years, who's going to carry that quarterback torch? You have Warren Moon, Steve Young, Dan Marino, John Elway. Some of the guys are going to depart. You got young guys like a Brad Johnson, has all the tools. Cordell Stewart, one of the most exciting quarterbacks in the league. But the big focal point this season, at least at the beginning, is going to be on Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf.
Well, in Detroit, they're saying, hey, Scott Mitchell, you're pretty young. Let's go here. And that's what they're looking at. That's what we're looking at in this game. Quarterback.
Well, we dumped one. We got another one, huh?
We are all excited here at ESPN this season, even more than ever, because for the first time ever, we have all of the Sunday night NFL games. We begin tonight at 8:15 after NFL prime time, new start time at 7:30. We have one of pro football's best rivalries, the Raiders and the Chiefs. Michael, nobody in Kansas City will be excited about this game. They never are with the Raiders.
You can smell the barbecue already.
Oh, yeah.
They're cooking. They're ready to go. You know, Chris, perhaps the most intriguing player in the latest act of the Chiefs-Raiders drama is going to be missing tonight.
Ex-Raider defensive lineman Chester McLaughlin, Casey's $30 million offseason free agent, will not play tonight after having back surgery. More on that in a little bit. We want to welcome in Joe Theismann, who will call the game at Arrowhead with Mike Patrick and Paul McGuire. Joe will join us every week on Sunday NFL Countdown. And Joey, too, let me say for the entire group, it's not the same without you here.
Well, I appreciate it, Mike. It's a little different being here as well.
The Raiders defense, let's start there because, let's be honest, they were awful last year. First defense in 3 decades to rank last against the run, last against the pass. Lots of changes on that side of the ball, including the first ever defensive player to win the Heisman Trophy.
Well, I know Charles Woodson is a very special athlete. I mean, everybody you talk to, all you hear is his athletic ability and his ability to play the corner position in a very natural way. But I asked him something last night that had to do with a little bit different than just the Kansas City Chiefs. It had to do with his alma mater.
Fake to Spencer. Jackson's got it. Looks, throws wide open. Rakai Nelson, 10, 5, touchdown, Irish!
Tell me what you thought of the Notre Dame-Michigan game.
Okay. Pretty funny. he hit a soft spot. He hit a soft spot. We'll bounce back.
The Raiders have got such a great legacy at the cornerback position. I mean, Willie Brown, Lester Hayes, Mike Haynes. What comes to your mind when you think of the cornerback position of the Oakland Raiders?
I want to carry out that tradition. I want to make those guys proud. I want to make Willie Brown, he's out there with us every day, helping out, coaching us. And I want to go out there on the field. I got his number on, you know, so I want to go out there and make him proud that I'm a Raider.
What was it like knowing that you're going to wear Willie Brown's number?
I had a choice of what number I wanted to wear, and I said, well, I'll just take 24. And they said, well, you know who wore 24, don't you? I'm like, no, who wore it? Willie Brown. I said, well, okay, I got a job to do then. I got a job to do.
You've already had an opportunity to be tested by Brett Favre, Troy Aikman. You feel like quarterbacks are going to sort of try and pick on you a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's their job. You have a rookie out there, you have to test him, and I think quarterbacks are going to do that, and I look forward to it because I'm going to give them a reason, to give them the reason why I'm out there on Sundays.
Do you anticipate having an opportunity to play a little offense in the National Football League here?
Yeah, I think the opportunity may come, but right now I just want to establish myself on defense and just be a player that my team and my coaches can count on.
When you look at Spider-Man, Andre, what impresses you when you watch him on film?
He gets open, and he makes the plays, and he brings excitement to the fans. And then, you know, when he scores, he goes up there to the goal post and sticks like Spider-Man, and we don't want to see that. We don't want to see that at all.
What would you say to all those quarterbacks out there that you're going to have an opportunity to face?
Come get me. I'm going to be out there. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be there every play.
Charles Woodson has such a refreshing enthusiasm about the way he wants to play corner. This young man is a great athlete, and when you talk to different coaches, little things they mention really jump out at you. Great recovery speed, long arms, terrific turn of direction. But the one thing one of the coaches told me that I think is the supreme compliment is they've compared him to Albert Lewis and said that he is the best corner to come out of college since Albert Lewis. Mike, that is one heck of a compliment for a young man, whether he's a Heisman Trophy winner or not. He could carry the mantle of being the next great corner like Deion Sanders is.
That's saying a lot, but everything we've seen and heard from folks in preseason would lend to that. Elvis Gerbach gets to test him tonight. The other quarterback in the game, Joe, what about Jeff George? John Gruden's side we've heard. It looks like Gruden's trying to buy in to get George on his team. What about Jeff George's side of the story this year?
Jeff George has not had to be sold on this offense. All he has to do is look around the league and see the quote-unquote West Coast offense. He sees Brett Favre's success. He sees Steve Young's success. All he sees when you talk to him, he sees open receivers. Having a chance to visit with him yesterday, you could see the enthusiasm in his eyes, the excitement about what this offense can mean. First of all, the 58 sacks he had last year will be gone. You won't see it anymore. He'll have a chance to get rid of the football. He's excited about 3-step drops, 5-step drops, getting the ball out, moving the chains. They really want to control the offense a lot more this year. They were last in time of possession last year. They feel like that can help their defense out an awful lot. Jeff George has got a new toy. And when you sat with him and you had a chance to talk to him about it, I felt like I was in his living room during Christmas when he was a little boy, Mike.
Well, John Gruden's been great for quarterbacks. Joe, we'll see you, Mike, and Paul after NFL Primetime tonight.
You bet.
Chris Mortensen, I want to bring you in now for more on the Chester McGlockton story. As you reported yesterday, he had back surgery. This morning, the Kansas City Star, Casey's GM Carl Peterson said no comment. Marty Schottenheimer, the head coach, he didn't say anything about it. He's not talking. Let's put it to you point blank. Did Chester have surgery? When and where?
Mike, he did have the surgery. He had it Saturday morning in Los Angeles at the USC Center for Spinal Surgery. Performer Dr. Robert Watkins. It was to trim a herniated disc or a bulging disc, and they got the deal done. 3/4-inch incision. They say 2 to 3 weeks, but I think the Kansas City Chiefs are really expecting 4 to 6 weeks. I know they're worried. That's $30 million investment there. Let's wait and see. It's big boy taking a lot of pounding.
We know one thing. We'll see a little bit more of Leslie O'Neal, the other big free agent defensive lineman for KC, as the Chiefs take on the Oakland Raiders. Our debut the entire season is Sunday Night Football at 8:15 Eastern. Game time after prime time tonight. And as you know, ESPN and ABC proud to be your exclusive primetime home for the NFL. Monday night, no ceremony to celebrate last year's Super Bowl. It's just about this year for Elway and the Broncos against Bledsoe and the Pats. Coverage of ABC's Monday Night Football starts at 8 Eastern. Boomer.
All right, Michael, thank you. That game should be a blast. Oh, I'm sorry. Later on in this edition of NFL Countdown, 2 '83 classmates have a little reunion. Jim with John Elway. Who can swap a few Super Bowl tales? John gets set for his final tour.
There's a slight chance that I'll come back next year. I mean, I'd love to throw for 40 TDs and 5 interceptions and 4,000 yards, and then who knows? It'd be tough to walk away after doing that.
The other members of the class of '83, Dan Marino fends off hard-hitting questions from Darius Rucker. Why does he make him cry? For Emmett Smith and the Cowboys, the 6-10 season was not what they had in mind. Emmett sets his sights for '98. The boss is missing his regular running mate, but he's setting out to ruin the Ravens. That game, nah.
Hole 3 of the Cooper Tire Invitational, a long par 10,000 from Seattle over the Continental Divide to Minneapolis. Our leader lying 7,012. Bill, how did he get there?
Well, Jim, Arnold's gotten through some rough terrain, thanks in part to his Cooper tires. Then that nice run, keeping it left along the Canadian border. Arnold, what's in store for the rest of the hole?
Got to clear those giant heads. The Cooper tires will do the job. The world is your course. Drive on.
Sports presents Cyberberry. If it's in the game, it's in the game. Match NFL 99. EA Sports. It's in the game.
Boy, it's a hot one out there. It's going to be a scorcher. You're going to be in the beach. Don't forget the suntan lotion.
Something wrong, Flex? I need to make a call, but I left my change on the blanket. I see, and your precious little tootsies can't bear the walk back, can they? No. Not to worry. Just dial 1-800-COLLECT. It's fast and really easy to use. 1-800-COLLECT's a lifesaver. How can I ever thank you? Tell your friends. 1-800-COLLECT. It's fast, it's easy, it's safe.
NFL Countdown is brought to you by Cooper Tire and Rubber Company. Cooper Tire, the world is your course. Drive on. By Exxon, the best way to get there.
We could get used to that in a hurry, you know that? There's a whole new look. Our own theme music played by these guys. It's unbelievable. Whole new look in Baltimore. First of all, the Ravens went undefeated in the preseason, giving up only 26 points and going 4 for 4. Last year, remember, they went 0-4 in August, which begat a 6-9-1 season. Plus, they opened up a new yard, Ravens Stadium at Camden Yards. We're calling it the Big Crab Cake. Into town come the Pittsburgh Steelers. 6 for 6 in playoffs in the Bill Cowher era. But Bill and I think Bill will have shaved that beard by kickoff today. He's had trouble in openers. He's 1-4 in his last 5. Last year's visit to Baltimore, remember the Steelers trailed that game 21-0 before Cordell went wild, winning 42-34, anticipating another wild one and a party atmosphere. Who else to send but our Stu Scott to Baltimore? And Stu, this is a Stu game, isn't it?
I've gone from Saints-Falcons to Ravens-Steelers, Chris. I think I'm moving up. Everything is new here in Baltimore. New veteran leadership on both sides of the ball. A new purple $223 million, 69,000-seat stadium that is filling up quickly. Fans arriving early to this as yet officially unnamed ballpark to try and help intimidate, become Baltimore's 12th man against the reigning division champs.
We need to go out and play football the way we know how to play, you know, in a hostile environment, loud crowd, opening day, divisional opponent, all those things makes itself for a neat little challenge.
Another challenge, keeping Jerome Bettis perfect against Baltimore. 4 games, 4 times over 100 yards, plus 2 new backups, 225-pound Richard Huntley and 252-pound Chris Fumatu Ma'afala added to a running game that was already the league's best.
It's refreshing to know that these big guys come in and pound, and when I come back in the game, that the defenses are even, a little bit more tired than when I left, and so it makes me feel a lot better.
When you speak about Jerome Bettis or Cordell Stewart, you speak like a Michael Jordan. Yeah, they're going to get there. It's a given in this game. First thing our defense says is Jerome won't get 100 yards. That's our mentality.
Part 2 of the Ravens' mentality, their own running game. Eric Rett, a cast-off from Tampa Bay where he was once a 2-time 1,000-yard rusher, is the new starter.
I came out the womb ready to run. I was very tough. I'm just, man, sometimes I don't even think this sport tough enough for me. Really, I don't.
One Raven concern is former Steeler Rod Woodson's knee healthy, and how will he do against his former teammates, some of whom are still his off-season workout partners?
People tell me that Rod has lost a step. I don't see it. I'm busting my tail to try to keep up with him on the track.
He's still my guy. I hope he has a great year except for 2 games, the 2 he plays against us.
The Ravens' most significant off-season acquire, Jim Harbaugh, who has dusted himself off after getting sacked 41 times a year ago in Indy. Still Captain Comeback? He doesn't think so. Harbaugh tells me, I am not this team's savior. I don't think this team needs a savior. Let's go back to Berman and the Blowfish in the studio. Chris?
Well, Stu, the one thing that we know is that Jim Harbaugh will not have to be the savior of this football team. This is a different Ravens team, at least offensively. It begins with the 2 big tackles, Orlando Brown and Jonathan Ogden.
Well, that is one of the main reasons I thought about coming out of retirement. I'm 38 years old, but when you see 2 guys that size, averaging about 350 pounds, that's a good reason Jim Harbaugh is going to be sitting in that pocket feeling pretty good.
And I'll give you a couple of more reasons. You get Michael Jackson and Jermaine Lewis at that wide receiver spot, and then Eric Rett. A la Marcus Allen, when he came from the Raiders, he only carried the ball 31 times last year for the Buccaneers. He is very well rested. You give a quarterback that kind of crew around him, I think it's a formula for success.
Well, if I think the Ravens, can exploit the Pittsburgh Steelers today, it's that secondary. They've got Carnell Lake back to cornerback. They got Dwayne Washington at cornerback. But the matchup you got to watch in today's game is a strong safety, Lee Flowers of the Steelers, never played in a regular season game, going against Eric Green, the former Steeler, who the Ravens tell me had the best preseason and training camp of any player on the team. That's the matchup to watch. And, oh, by the way, a lot of talk about not having Yancey Thigpen with the Steelers. Hey, Charles Johnson caught 60 balls for 1,000 yards when Yancey was down in 96. Hey, and Cordell Stewart and Charles, best friends from college.
Well, I'll tell you what, back to Lee Flowers for a minute. Boy, Cowher was raving about him along with Hines Ward, who's the new Slash. But the old Slash, Cordell Stewart's going to miss Chan Gailey, his offensive coordinator. Ray Sherman now entertains that job in Pittsburgh. The old Chan Gailey is gainfully employed as the head coach of the Dallas Football Cowboys and immediately earns the tag as the only Cowboys coach never to have won a Super Bowl. I mean, that's a tad unfair. After all, he hasn't coached an official game yet. But Dallas did go 0-5 in the preseason. Not a great cause for optimism when you consider that since 1980, 25 teams have had winless preseasons. Only two have made the playoffs, one being Jim's Buffalo Bills in 1990. In fact, Dallas hasn't won a game of any sort since before Thanksgiving, last November the 16th to be exact. 10 straight losses. But they've handled today's foe, Arizona, at Big D every year in the 90s. 8 wins to the tune of 232-84. That could change as these Cardinals are on their way up with Jake the Snake Plummer at quarterback and a defense that just added Andre Wadsworth to Dallas and Ed Werder. Ed?
Thanks, Chris. You know, Andre Wadsworth's late signing causes problems for both the Cowboys and the Cardinals. The Cowboys never believed he'd play, and so they failed to address how to block him in their offensive game plan. The Cardinals failed to sign him in time to play anything more than a limited role. I just got off the phone with defensive coordinator Dave McGinnis. He says that he and Joe Green met with Wadsworth for 2 hours last night. They'll spend another intense hour this morning going over the stunts and games the Cardinals plan to run up front. In all, Wadsworth probably takes 12 to 15 snaps in the nickel defense.
Just to have him in the fold probably means a lot to us, just in terms of a young person who's been around championship caliber football. And those type of players we need more of on this team.
The players are happy to see that he got signed. He's still got to prove himself on the field. So you know, the management did prove to the rest of us that they want to win by getting him.
We've got all the pieces in place now, and that there is no excuses. Whether we win or whether we lose is up to us.
I'm just excited to be here and play football. If I get blown and knocked off the ball, so be it. But I'm gonna try my best to get back there and say hello to number 8.
I won't want to be Troy Aikman.
Wadsworth admits he's not in football shape, but that's not necessarily a requirement. Aikman was sacked 33 times last season, once more than in the previous 2 years combined. That's why Larry Allen's moved to left tackle. That's why Chan Gailey's implemented a new offense. That's why Troy Aikman will be in the shotgun formation for the first time in his career. And it's why the Cowboys themselves can't be sure of what kind of team they have after losing every game they've played since mid-November.
Maybe we're not as talented as what we once were. Maybe we're not as good as what we once were, but I still think we're good enough.
There's some doubt. You know, we went 6-10 last year, and I know I can't speak for everyone else, but in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking we're a 6-10 team, and you know, we haven't proven anything yet.
We'd like to win, but and we'd like to win soon. But if we don't, we're not going to fold our tent and say the season's done.
Aikman told me he really likes the way Gailey attacks the defense, that he knows how to find favorable matchups and make in-game adjustments. They met yesterday to script the first 12 to 15 offensive plays, and Sterling Aikman says he's most influential in calling the third down passing plays and the pass protection schemes.
Well, Ed, you talk about scheming for this football game. The last time the Cowboys schemed for anyone in the playoffs in those 5 losses were the St. Louis Rams. The one thing they did is they came out and they dominated the football game. Emmitt Smith had a great run of 41 yards. Not on this one right here. You see him backdoor the trap there. Michael Irvin with a good block springs Emmitt for a long run. Troy Aikman 7 for 7 for 99 yards in this football game. He goes back in the pocket, ball's gone. Nice over the top, 41 yards to Michael Irvin, who always seems to show up on Sunday anyway. The most impressive thing about this team is Emmitt ran for over 100 yards in the first half, 258 yards total offense in the first half from the unit that worked together only for the first half of the Ram game. I think the Cowboys may... How about them Cowboys?
Hey,
they may know something that a lot of other teams don't.
Yeah, they got big pockets to hide stuff in. Or...
Yes, they do.
Uh-oh. We'll see. They need a good start today against an improving Arizona team. No question about that. Well, we have plenty to come on this edition of NFL Countdown. 2 hours. Randy Moss and Chris Carter. Will that duo pay dividends? Anytime's a good time to listen in on Brett Favre on the playing field.
On one, ready? Come on, Derek. First down. Woo. Hey, they can't do that.
If you have been injured, the Peter F. Barracuda Law Offices can help you. We are experienced and aggressive in helping injured people in all areas of workers' compensation and personal injury law. If you are hospitalized or confined to your home, at your request, the Barracuda Law Offices will come to you to offer free consultation. Or call the Barracuda Law Offices for a free consultation, toll-free at 1-888-488-4LAW. Si habla español.
Success in business means networking with Jones Intercable. Stop. Think in color. Advertise on Jones Intercable.
Sunday Night Football, ladies and gents, with the Raiders and the Chiefs.
He's not a pirate, you stoop. He's a Raider.
He's a bloodthirsty pirate, a swashbuckler. He's ready for battle.
Yeah, but he's wearing an eye patch. He can't even see straight.
Got a knife in his mouth. He's fearsome.
The knife isn't in his mouth. It's through his helmet.
Another good point.
Is everyone against me? ESPN Sunday Night Football. The Raiders against the Chiefs. Coverage begins at 8:15.
This magazine captures the sizzle of sports, the glory, the joy, the pathos.
I want the scoop on Terrell Davis. Has life changed for the Super Bowl MVP? They gave me the NFL preview. I want to get inside the huddle. And what's the story with Agassi? Is he back again? Printed, baby!
They began in summer, the legions of the sun. Super Bowl dreams that glowed in the summer sunshine. Victory is in the skies. A season awaits with glory in her eyes.
Speaking of good sounds, as a part of Sunday NFL Countdown this year with our good friends from NFL Films, we'll take you closer to the action, down to the field, eavesdropping on the players in our soundtracks feature. This week, Brett Favre, the man who today becomes the first ever NFL player to take the field as the reigning three-time MVP. He shows that same regular season on-field leadership in this preseason game against Denver.
And we rely on each other.
Keep on going, don't stop.
Hey, take a little pride here. Just the way, hey, this team beat us in the Super Bowl. We're a better offensive team. We showed we put up some pretty good numbers. Let's do what we got to do now. Leroy, who you want? You want to call it? You want me to call it?
I'll call it.
You want to call it?
Yeah, y'all want the ball?
Let's see. Dang it, you call it. Who's our head ref today?
Tony Correcti. This is his rookie year.
Oh, we're going to give him some. Leroy, call it. Ain't nobody lucky over here. Reggie's over. Frank! Frank! Kickoff team, they need you. You know what time the game starts? Hey, let's go. In and out, in and out. Switch right, 60 trap on one, ready. Knock their ass off, come on. Over. Green 18. Green 18, set. Hey, they ain't nothing but smash mouth football here. Knock their ass off. Let's go. Green right, 92 lead on one. Ready? Let's go. Blue 58. Check red over. Red over to it. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Let's go. Double wing left, halfback left. Three jet flankers, short post on one. Ready? Blue 58. Yeah. First down. Get off the ball. Green right, 98, head outside on one. Ready? Come on, Derek. First down. Woo. Hey, they can't do that. They can't do that. Hey, we're going first down. I walk up there before I even get there. Guy goes, go. Oh, well, we're going to let them do the snap count for us? You want to let them do that? I don't know how I caught that ball before he snapped me. That was a shotgun from 2 yards back. They hauled out the snap count. Go! Yeah, thanks to me.
I love hearing that stuff. We're going to do it all season. Today, Favre starts for real against the Lions, a team that held the Green Bay offense to 35 points total in 2 games last year. A little bit later on, we're going to look at how to defend number 4, Boomer. The Broncos may have given the league, shall we say, a blueprint.
We are architects here. I mean, that's basically what it is. Well, 3 seasons ago, guys, Favre and the Packers were a young playoff team trying to crack into the upper echelon of Dallas and San Francisco, which they, of course, did. This year, Green Bay and San Francisco is the NFC upper crust. Both Tampa Bay and Minnesota are the teams trying to knock down the same doors the Pack did 3 years ago. Remember, these 4 teams were the last year's Final 4 in the NFC. The Bucs were 97 Cinderella story. A 5-0 start in their season punctuated by the greatest one-yard run in the history of the NFL. Mike, you're in good hands with Allstott. Week 3 at Minnesota, Tampa Bay beat the Vikings 28-14 en route to their 10-6 finish. Now, this preseason, the Vikings were the story, going 4-0, and as you saw in this Schwam, 27 teams since 1980 have gone undefeated in August. 17 of them have made it to the playoffs. This game is the game of the day. To Minnesota we go, to Andrea Kramer. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning, Chris. It's great to be with you for another season. The hype here in Minnesota is about the Vikings offense. And head coach Dennis Green is promoting that today when he'll specifically introduce his offense, including starting wide receivers Jake Reed and Chris Carter, but adding prized rookie Randy Moss. One reason for Moss's development is the time he spent with Carter at his offseason home in Boca Raton. And the relationship they built toiling under the Florida sun has enabled Carter to push Moss more than any coach could.
Come on, Rook. Come on, Rook.
When he has to clear out for me, I challenge him that I can beat him off the ball for the first 15 yards. And then that is one way that I can assure that I will be open. He hasn't caught on to that yet. He thinks we're still just racing.
Moss's sub 4.3 speed and his 6'4" frame added to the 2,000 yards plus tandem of Reed and Carter present matchup problems for the Bucs, whose top 3 corners are all under 6 feet.
They can decide to play all zone, and what we have to do is be very patient week in and week out and kind of give them a slow death.
Well, we'll find out. That's our style, so we may die the slow death, but we'll see.
How do you compensate for the lack of height?
Well, probably with quickness. Taller guys generally have longer strides, so if you can make them chop their feet, break their stride down a little bit, that's an advantage for a corner.
At times, the Bucs cornerbacks may try to disrupt the Vikings receivers at the line of scrimmage. It's tough to be physical with Carter and Reed, who are masters at fighting off the jam, but the rookie may be more susceptible.
What a first-year player is always going to have little problems with is getting off the jam. There's no doubt about it. That takes experience, and so we've tried to work hard on that.
There's always a chance for you to jam me and stop me. There's always a chance to get beat for 6. So I don't know. If I were to guard me, I'd use caution.
He hasn't really been tested yet. I haven't seen one good hit on him, and we're chomping at the bit to be the first ones to welcome him to the NFL.
Green would like to use Moss for about 35 plays today, but the key to successfully using the 3 wides package on first and second downs is a 50-50 run-pass mix. If Robert Smith can't run the ball against the Bucs, and he totaled just 84 yards against them in 2 games last year, then safety Lynch doesn't have to worry so much about run support, but can sit back in the zone and try to lay the lick on the rookie. And speaking of rookies, sorry, Jim, wouldn't you have loved to have 3 tall targets like the Vikings have?
I think I had something similar. I mean, Brad Johnson has all the weapons. Jake Reed is probably one of the best with Chris Carter. But when you add speedster Randy Moss to the equation, it reminds me of Don Beebe, James Loft, and Andre Reed. He's going to have a lot of fun. But one thing that you're going to look at on the other side of the ball, Trent Dilfer, I spent a lot of time in Tampa this offseason. The talk around town, it didn't matter if it was a sports bar or a restaurant or on the street. Can he lead them to the promised land?
We're talking about Trent Dilfer, the golfer, leading somebody to the promised land?
Well, we're going to find out if he's going to be that middle-of-the-road guy or if he's going to be the quarterback to take a giant step. He made the Pro Bowl last year, and he is an excellent quarterback. But I'm going to keep my eyes focused on number 12 for the Bucs this year.
Well, you're not going to be the only one that's going to focus on these 2 quarterbacks and their style of play, because let's face it, these guys don't have a Brett Favre-type arm. Defenses are going to play a lot of zone and force them to make tight throws. And talking to both defenses, they feel like they can get some hands on some balls, tip some balls up. I like the running game, Chris. I love the running game to get to the Super Bowl to get one of these. There's still going to be opportunities for quarterbacks to make some plays.
Yeah, Jaquez Green. Just look for him, the newest one. They may go 3 wide on first down, some, Tampa Bay. These are the conservative Bucs. We'll see. This game is going to be a lot of fun. Well, still to come on this edition of Sunday NFL Countdown, Warren Sapp, John Randall. So is Steve, they show here. They're going to make quarterbacks' life miserable. How about today? The 49ers hope to see a whole lot more of these 2 together after a hiatus.
Right now, the Wagner cordless power.
Start time this year for NFL Chat. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. That's 1:30 in Hawaii. Join us on NFL Primetime this evening. Well, it's been a gas this morning. Our good friends from Hootie and the Blowfish are with us all morning and all afternoon. That's why we call it a 2-hour show. We've had Cracked Rear View. We've had Fairweather Johnson. New disc out September 15th, Musical Chairs. We wish they'd come join us. Our wishes. The Washington Redskins marching band, late 90s edition. Last year, the New York Football Giants stormed from last to first in the NFC East, becoming the first team ever to go undefeated in the division, going 7-0-1. Included a 30-10 blasting of the Skins at the Meadowlands, and a tie that was dreadful, 7-7 OT in D.C. This year, the G-Men are hit with a first-place schedule, and they've lost quarterback Jason Sehorn for the year. The Skins have shored up their rush defense in a big way. They hope that Dana Stubblefield and Big Daddy Wilkinson are enough to swing the fortunes atop the NFC East. Are they? Our first glimpse today, with a good view at the Meadowlands, are Melissa Stark. Melissa.
Chris, thanks. The Redskins' priority in the offseason was to improve their run defense, which ranked 28th last year. $57 million later, they think they've done that with the addition of the 1997 Defensive Player of the Year, Dana Stubblefield, and Dan Wilkinson, the #1 pick in the '94 draft.
All we know is what they've done. We paid them based on potential, based on what we've seen.
Not only we replaced Sean Gilbert, but we added another guy, and now we're starting to look like an NFL defensive line, especially in the middle.
It's going to be a tough task to be able to move the ball on them. Those guys are a force in there. I mean, we might try it, but it might be like running into a wall.
Fossil says they will try it and has asked his players to look at what happened in games in which the Giants ran for over 100 yards last season. They were 9-2-1 and 1-3 when they didn't.
Philosophy of the Giants is to run the ball, pound you and pound you and pound you.
Because there's times when we go to single back, Charles Way is going to be the back in there. And he can be the fullback or the single back. And when we go to single back, it might be Tiki Barber. It could be Gary Brown. It could be Tyrone Wheatley.
We're going to go with the hot back, and I think we have the flexibility to do that.
Where the Giants are not as flexible as in the secondary, cornerback Conrad Hamilton steps in for the injured Jason Sehorn. He's only had one career start, and at 5'10", 195 pounds, he's 4 inches shorter and 15 pounds lighter than Sehorn.
I have full confidence in Conrad. He has the speed, the tenacity, the quickness. He can leap. He's just as fast as Jason as far as driving to the football.
Conrad's definitely going to get a lot of balls thrown his way.
If they try to protect him and roll the coverage and really try to help him out by doubling receivers, then we might not throw at him. We might go back against Felipe.
After missing most of his rookie season with a neck injury, Giants wide receiver Ike Hilliard makes a healthy 98 start. And Tommy, the Giants are hoping he's that big play receiver they've been missing.
Well, Melissa, this is as complete a football team as there is in the league, and I think a team that will not miss Jason Sehorn as much as some people think. In talking to Jim Fossil, he has complete confidence in Conrad Hamilton to step up his game, but the main thing is they will not change their scheme. They will show some things that people are not used to looking at. Then on offense, they're also going to protect their defense. Charles Way is now the feature back rather than the fullback, and the one thing that Jim Fossil is going to do is he's not going to ask Danny Cannell to throw for 300 yards and try to win football games with his arm.
Well, Tommy, Norv Turner did something different this week. For the first time in 5 years, he closed ranks, he closed practice to everybody, and he gave his team a rear ends on the line speech. Basically acknowledged that his rear end is on the line this year, and Gus Frerott's rear end is on the line, to the point where even with Jeff Hostetler out today, Trent Green could play if Gus Frerotte trips too much. Green been in the system for 4 years. And oh, by the way, Giants, Chris, still looking for cornerback help. They're going to meet with Carlton Gray tonight after their game.
Skins rear ends on the line? Then he did what? Obviously.
There you go.
When we continue here on NFL Countdown, they'll be forever linked. Peyton Manning, the #1 pick, Ryan Leaf, #2 pick. The future begins now. They hope one day to get where John Elway was in January. John's not done by a long shot. Especially postseason he had. That's at 1 Eastern time tomorrow on Up Close. And then following that, just mild interest in this game. Mark McGwire with 60 homers, Sammy Sosa with 58. Tomorrow they play at St. Louis to begin the first of a 2-game set. Head-to-head, that's at 2 Eastern time following baseball tonight at 1:30. Wow. That has been fun, has it not? The defending Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos, I know you like that, Tom, gets an extra day before they start putting their crown on the line. But They'll be ready at Mile High Stadium on Monday night to play the AFC East champion New England Patriots. Through the years, the Broncos have jumped on the Pats like jackals attacking fresh meat. Last year, remember Week 6, the two teams were the last undefeated teams in football. The Bronx rolled 34-13. The year before was 34-8. The year before was 37-3. You get one's an accident, two's a trend, three's a problem. The Patriots' last Mile High win, Mike Tolliver was quarterback. AFL 1968. Mike, may the force be with you.
They're going to have some work to do tomorrow night in Mile High, that's for sure, Chris. You know, this is Sweet 16 for the class of 83 quarterbacks that are left, and we're down to two, Marino and Elway. It was a big question if John would come back. Jim Kelly, I'm sure as you watched the Super Bowl last year and Elway celebrating, it kind of went through your mind. If you were in John's shoes, you would have loved it, but would you have come back for one more year after?
I would have walked away from the game with a margarita in this hand, my golf clubs in this hand. I'm serious. But it not only surprised me, but it surprised a lot of his teammates.
They probably would took it back to God and 10,000 soldiers to get me to come back. It would be hard for me to come back. You know, I want to end on a high note.
Fairy tale ending to a great career. Great season, Super Bowl champion, carried off the field on your teammates' shoulders. The owner dedicating the Super Bowl victory to you.
This one's for John.
Financially secure, beautiful family. Why come back for another year?
Well, you know, it's something that, you're right, everything was perfect. But you know what, I still wanted to play football and really thought I still had the ability to play.
You know how good that nice ring's going to look on your finger? Can't believe it.
Sure, it'd been nice to ride off in the sunset, be world champ and all that stuff, and it looks good in a fairy tale, but I wasn't ready. I'm too young. I'm still only 38, and heck, I didn't want to quit playing.
You made me feel good because I'm 38 too, but was a big factor also the team that you had?
Yeah, no question. No question. I mean, if we were a mediocre team, there's no question. And, you know, if we'd have lost 6, 7, 8 guys in free agency, I'm sure we would have moved on.
Great job, John.
Is this your last year?
You know, I told him, I tried to say 99.9%, and he started asking me about it, so... But
that's
yeah,
about the 0.1%.
Exactly. You know, I tried to leave the door, you know, a little bit open, but you know, the chances are yes, it is. But you know, if things go just unbelievably good, and you know, I feel good about where I am, I can still play. Then sure, there's a slight chance that I'll come back next year. I mean, I'd love to throw for 40 TDs and 5 interceptions and 4,000 yards, and then who knows? It'd be tough to walk away after doing that.
Ever think about the quarterbacks of the class of '83 that didn't make it, wishing that they were in your shoes?
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, and we're fortunate in that the fact that when we first came in the league, there was a lot of competition. Everybody wanted to be the guy to kind of rise above everybody else. And fortunately, we were all on pretty good teams and all had a lot of success. But we all took our same old lumps in the fact that we played well until we got to the Super Bowl, and then, you know, we got hit right between the eyes. And so, I mean, it was just glad that I could finally, you know, take the monkey off the back of that class of '83, so we don't have to talk about that anymore. Because I'm sure you got asked a million times about the greatest class of all time quarterbacks, but hadn't won a Super Bowl. So I mean, yeah, I mean it was great, and I think that you know, feel very lucky to be the one.
Well, we thank you. Trust me, because we get tired of it also. You've been in the locker room on the other side after the game. Me being there 4 times in a losing locker room, knowing that boy, you're gonna have to go through 4 months of just hearing it. You can't win it, you can't win it, you can't win. All of a sudden, you're in the winning locker room. Tell me the feeling.
I tell you what, Jim, you're in the locker room, and all you want to do is just sit there and soak it up, especially after losing 3, but it goes so fast. And I can still remember riding back to the hotel and just, I mean, I didn't leave my hotel room. I just sat there and just, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I get shivers still thinking about, you know, finally, and not having to answer all those questions, like, you know, like we talked about. Man, all those, it erased all those. And so, I mean, that was really a neat feeling.
Well, I'm getting chills thinking about how you were feeling.
Like, sweet! Whoa, smile, boy! Man, I thought this was just a picture or something.
It is real, and it is John Elway's. Now, we know John missed a bit of training camp. Missed the first preseason game. His wife, Janet, had colon cancer surgery. Thankfully, things went well, and she's doing better, but it's a moot point. However, I know you talked to him about it. Was there a chance John was going to do what Chris Spielman is doing up in Buffalo and sit out the year if Janet's health didn't improve?
There's no doubt. I talked to John. He said if I have to, I would do that. He's prepared to do that. But one thing he has behind him, he has his family's support. Janet says, if you still have it in your heart, go for it, John. If there's one person I know that can do it with so many distractions around him is John Elway.
And he will get a chance to start proving it against a team that the Broncos have dominated, the Pats. We will look at that, plus tell you why it happened today, tomorrow night on Monday Night Countdown. Me, Tommy, and Sterling, our new time as well, 6:30 Eastern, before you, Boom.
Ah, yes, Michael. And one thing we learned from Jim, or you all learned about there, honest reporting. Margarita and golf clubs, I think it's pretty accurate. Back to the Tundra we go, where the Green Bay Packers and Brett Favre are hoping for 3 straight Super Bowls. Brett certainly knows all about what John Elway had felt last year. He also knows the other side of it, what John Elway has felt. Let's go back to the Tundra and Ron Jaworski amidst the Cheeseheads.
Thank you, Boomer. Brett Favre is in the process of redefining the quarterback position. Brett's strong arm, his pocket awareness, and his escapability make him the toughest quarterback in the NFL to defend.
Get out. Then he stands in the pocket and he kills you.
It's almost like Brett's playing like it's like his life depended on it.
Defensive backs are taught, do not let them beat you deep. Stay with your guy no matter what. Well, if they do that, then I run it. If they come up, then I throw it over their head. Oh, I'm always looking. I'm scanning the field no matter what, and there's always someone out there open, in my opinion.
Just how do you stop Brett Favre? In Super Bowl 32, the Broncos didn't stop him, but they did take him out of his game. By mixing up coverages and blitz packages, Denver forced Favre into 2 first-half turnovers. Alan Aldridge was the middle linebacker for the world champions. Now he's a Detroit Lion.
The Super Bowl, you guys were successful with a lot of these blitzes and that. Was it the fact that they weren't picking them up, or were you just getting to them quicker than the receiver could make his break?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think they were picking them up, and sometimes we were coming free, but sometimes he even burnt us. You know, he can make a great decision, somebody in his face, you know, thrown off of 1 foot. That's the type of quarterback he is.
We scored 24 points. We had some big plays. It was too late. And not to mention the fact they played well. Will teams come after us more if they feel like that's what they got to do?
The thing that we have been stressing all week is putting pressure on him, and any chance we get, hitting it. He's at that point now. I personally, I don't think he likes to get hit a lot.
What quarterback does? Come on.
If they blitz, you got to love it, because there's no one back there to make a play. If you hit a guy on the slant, he may go for 80 yards.
Now here's a play, a situation that, you know, we react a little bit, or me as a safety, react a little bit quick instead of hiding our coverage. I walked up a little bit too fast, and he's able to make the audible now, knowing that we're in a 3-deep zone when we have 1 safety. He's got 4 wide receivers, so basically he's telling them guys to go up top, and he's going to find the guy who wants closer.
Pretty well played, just a great throw.
Hey, that's why he's MVP.
It's not just Favre's arm that has made him a 3-time MVP. It's elusiveness, it's physical toughness, and it's a determination that defenders have described as scary.
This is the one thing, as a defensive lineman, you have to be conscious of when you're playing against Brett Favre. You can see Kerwin Waldrop at the top, compresses the pocket, but he has he feels the rush so good. I mean, anybody would come underneath because that would be the right thing to do. But look what he does. He spins out of it.
It's going to break down. So what happens if it breaks down? You throw the ball away. I usually try to make something happen first, and usually somebody's open, because once the quarterback starts scrambling, it's chaos.
When you play Brett Favre, you've got to maintain the discipline of your defense. You can't freelance.
No.
All 11 guys.
No. And the more, when he scrambles, the more you have to be even more disciplined.
You want to force him to try and make something big, or force him to make mistakes.
If you try to take a chance on something, he'll find it, and he'll capitalize on it.
I spent some time with Brett on Thursday, and I could sense a newfound maturity. In fact, he told me in the past if he had an hour of free time, well, he passed that time by goofing off. Now what he does, he goes in and pulls out some coaching tape and studies the upcoming opponent. Now Brett Favre is a cerebral quarterback. You combine that with his great physical tools, and Sterling, that could be a tough combination to stop.
Well, Josh, I want to go back to something that happened this week. I mean, the football thing, the one thing I learned in that piece was everybody used the word force. And what Mike Holmgren did this week is kind of force Brett Favre to be a vocal leader, and I just don't see Brett being that.
You can't thrust leadership on anybody. I mean, Dan Marino, when he speaks, people listen. When I was a player, people respected my opinion. How Brett Favre shows his leadership, he's 15 for 20 in passing. He throws 4 touchdowns. He brings his team back in the fourth quarter. That's how Brett Favre shows his leadership.
Well, I think most importantly, when you look at a guy like Brett Favre, his teammates are kind of like Mort said in our meeting yesterday, kind of waiting for a punchline because they think he's telling a joke.
Yeah,
but I mean, the guy goes out and he makes plays, and I tell you what, we saw in Sound Tracks, Boom, you want to see leadership, it's what he does on the field, staying after his linemen to get off the football, protecting the football, the running backs, and telling the receivers he's going to give them something they can catch.
Well, his teammates know, guys, where he can lead them. And Mort, a guy who has certainly led his team, Emmitt Smith, another even much quieter than Brett, he's led by example. Question, is he still capable of leading the Cowboys back to the playoffs?
Well, Chris, when the Seahawks signed free agent running back Chris Warren, let's face it, they validated the speculation that Emmitt Smith can no longer carry the same load. There were 2 practical sides to this move. 1, Warren gives them an insurance policy, and 2, and this is unspoken, I think, his acquisition put Emmitt on notice that it's still all about what have you done for me lately.
I know it's going to come to an end for me someday, but it ain't going to be no time soon. I can promise you that.
After 8 stellar seasons in which he captured 4 rushing titles, 3 Super Bowl rings, including Most Valuable Player in Super Bowl 28, and a league MVP in 1993, Emmitt Smith has spent the last year in the unfamiliar position of defending himself against those who say he is in the twilight of his career.
They're going to say it's not Emmitt if Emmitt don't lead the league in rushing. That's what they're going to say. If Emmitt don't score 25 or 26 touchdowns, that's not Emmitt. You know, that's just the way it is.
Do you sense at all, or sense maybe you've been around him a little bit, that he's been hurt by the talk that he's not the same guy, he's not what he used to be?
Yeah, I sense that. I know he's set out this year to try to prove some of his critics wrong. I'm not one of those critics. I think he's an exceptional football player. I think he still is.
Emmitt Smith, big hole. I'm still the same ball player. Trust me, I got the same heart. As long as I have the same heart and the same desire, I can get my job done.
Getting the job done is not Chan Gailey's concern. Minimizing the number of carries and the pounding Emmitt absorbs is.
What we'd like to do is limit the number of hits when he's not carrying the football, 3rd down pass protection situations.
Granted, I may not be able to do some things that carry the ball as many times as people may want me to carry it, or as many times as much as I want to carry it. But give me the opportunity to do it, and let's do it.
I think over the years when Emmitt's had a chip on his shoulder is when he's been most effective. I think Emmitt's always kind of had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, wanting to prove to whoever that he was one of the best football players in the league.
Emmitt quieted some of his critics during the preseason, rushing for 110 yards and a touchdown on just 12 carries against the St. Louis Rams.
During that Rams game, everybody said, that's the Emmitt of old.
Whatever.
How do you respond to that?
Whatever. That's all I say is whatever. He never left. He was never gone. He's never gone.
Whatever. But I'll tell you what. Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, those guys were walking around this week like the cats that ate the canary. They really think they've got something going. I think a healthy offensive line, a healthy Moose Johnson at fullback. One thing that kind of is throwing off their plans today, Chris Warren out for 4 to 6 weeks, meaning Emmitt's going to have to play a little bit more.
Well, Emmitt will be fine today. I'm one of those people who question Emmitt over the long haul. Consider the fact that Emmitt Smith has carried the ball 400 times more than Earl Campbell to this point in his career, so he does wear it down. But I think what Chan Gailey, his head coach, is smart enough to understand is that for the first 4 to 8 weeks, I have Emmitt Smith at his best, well-rested and running like the Emmitt Smith of old.
Which is about as good as it ever got
That's correct.
in the National Football League. When we return, we'll go to Philly, where the team coming into Philadelphia, the Seattle Seahawks, they figured maybe this is their year to get into playoffs. And if they do, Joey Galloway, number 84, will play a big role. Back to the Seahawks, Eagles, and more, and everything that flies when we return.
hoping for a little company.
Welcome back to NFL Countdown. More from Hootie and the Blowfish right here in our studio in a moment. On to the city of brotherly love, where towards the end of last season, the love affair between Ricky Waters and the Philadelphia Eagles became unglued. But wouldn't you know it, week one, Waters is finding out what W.C. Fields always knew. On the whole, I'd rather be in Philadelphia. Waters returns to the vet as a Seattle Seahawk, who are hoping that he can run them past 3 straight bad openers and 3 straight poor starts. They've begun the last 3 seasons 0-2, 0-3, 0-2. Not a good idea. To the land of the cheesesteak and our Sal Palantonio. Sal?
Well, Chris, I think we can all agree that Philadelphia is very, very tough on its sports teams, but after a 1-3 disastrous preseason plagued by injuries to 4 different starters, 5 now if you add Charlie Garner, an inept offense and turnovers galore, the level of disappointment in this franchise is deafening.
You know, the way that the preseason went for us, I think that's, you know, that's natural for everybody to feel that way.
For them to really think that we're going to go a long way right now is you know, it would be a matter of craziness for them to think that we're going to have a real good team right now. We haven't given them any reason to be optimistic. I mean, the display of football that we've given them thus far has been less than par.
That's an understatement. In 5 preseason games, the Eagles' first-team offense scored just 1 touchdown. And in 21 third-down chances with Hoying at the helm, the Eagles gained a total of 5 yards.
You know Ray as well as I do, and he's going to have them pumped up and ready to play, and I throw the preseason out.
Preseason, let's face it, we were pretty vanilla in a lot of ways. We were a lot of basic formation, red and green, you know what I mean, and you know we can use that up.
Seattle had a very productive preseason, but it means nothing unless they can shake their tendency to start slow.
It's important for everybody, but more so probably for us just because of how we've done in the past, and it just shows how hard it is to catch up once you get behind.
Under Erickson, the Seahawks have lost 3 straight openers by a combined score, get this, of 104-20. And in their history, they are 5-17 in the openers, the worst record in the AFC. And here's a little bit more bad news. Cortez Kennedy, the all-pro starting defensive tackle, is out. He's been deactivated with a strained foot, Chris.
All right, Sal. Well, they're trying to get off the schneid there in these openers, and maybe it's jet lag for the Pacific Northwest. We'll see. Enjoy the game. Well, we've got more on our 2-hour edition of NFL Countdown. More on Ricky Waters. Will he be in the flow for Seattle this year? The Dolphins make him cry. Darius asked Dan Marino why. Nice catch. If it's strength and speed in the middle you want, check out Warren Sapp and John Randall. As good as it gets at defensive tackle. More as we revisit the Bucs and Vikes. Back in the saddle again. Steve Young and Jerry Rice hope to pick up where they left off in '96.
He may have been a free agent after last season, but Curtis Martin was destined and delighted to rejoin Coach Bill Parcells.
He's taught me how to be a running back in the NFL. He's taught me how to be disciplined. You know, he's instilled a lot of things in me that had he not instilled those things, I'm not sure I'd be quite the professional athlete that I am today.
Curtis is a very good improviser. You don't always have to block everybody, and he'll still make some yards from time to time. I think he can be a big difference maker. He's going to give you everything he can every week, and he's one of those guys that'll spill the blood if he has to.
His teammates find it very easy to paint a pretty picture of the new $36 million man.
You know, you just give him the ball and just not necessarily back away, but, you know, you just do your job and then you just spring him. And once he gets free, you know, he's just an artist. And, you know, you're waiting to see his, one of his famous paintings like a Michelangelo or Ernie Barnes or something like that. He can just go out there and create and give you a masterpiece.
Ladies and gentlemen, Curtis Martin!
You know the saying in New York, as Curtis Martin goes, so go the Jets. Is that a fair statement? No, that's different people's opinion. That's not what I feel. I feel that as the Jets go, the Jets go. No one man can win the game. We have various weapons that, you know, are going to help us win this year, and it's never pressure to me. You know, I feel it's motivation.
People never question your ability.
so many memorable meetings of the Niners and Jets coach Bill Parcells when he coached the Giants. Parcells, by the way, only 4-7 lifetime against San Francisco. 3 wins came in the playoffs, including that 90 NFC title game that essentially, didn't know it at the time, essentially ended the Joe Montana era in San Francisco. Can he put a hurt into the Niners with Glenn Foley at quarterback? Well, we'll have to douse the dynamic duo of Steve Young and Jerry Rice, who had years of collective brilliance interrupted in Week 1 last year when Jerry hurt his knee seriously and Steve was knocked out. But as Andrea Kramer tells us, that was then, this is now.
You say to yourself, this is not the way I want to go out. You know, I want to go out on the top of my game. I want to be healthy, and I would like for it to be my decision.
Monday night, Jerry comes back, and I'm telling you, it was like olden days. You know, just start throwing the ball, and it was just so, it seemed so easy. And I really appreciated that for that short time. And then all of a sudden it was taken away again, taken away again, taken away again. It was just enough to realize how good it is when I'm throwing the ball to him.
You're watching this guy throw the ball. You see other guys catch the ball and make big plays, and you know, you hear the crowd cheering, and you say to yourself, you know, I used to do that. You know, that was me, and I want to get back in the mix.
When you look at him, do you see the Jerry Rice of old? What do you see?
I really do. I think that people are going to be very scrutinizing of him. I noticed when I threw him the football at the beginning of the summer, wasn't. You know, and he'll be honest with you, he wasn't there. And he was dragging his leg around, and I was concerned. And then towards the middle of camp, he started to jump around and make some moves, and I could actually see him running routes again and doing the right things and feeling well. In the last couple of weeks, now I feel like he has a confidence to go play football. I feel like I'm throwing the ball to Jerry Rice again.
You know, it's like we haven't missed a beat. You know, we get into a game situation, and I think after being together for so many years, the chemistry is just, it's automatic. It happens, and it just clicks on.
But a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, August 31st, did you both look at each other and wonder if you would ever be in a game together? You're out with your knee problem. You had another concussion. I mean, it must seem like ages ago to begin with.
I think both events were watershed events for our careers as far as how we were going to approach football. I don't think either of us felt like that was it, but it was definitely, more than anything, it takes a second to just realize why you love to play, why you do it, why you're going to fight back to come back to play.
When you encounter something like a knee injury, you know, you have to say to yourself, well, do I still love the game? Do I want to endure the pain of getting back on that football field, knowing that it can happen again? And my answer to that is that, yes.
Is this it for you, though, in the sense that if, God forbid, lightning struck 3 times?
Andrea, I can't say that. I can't, because I still love it. And I think as long as the fire is still burning, I'll endure another rehab. I'll go through the entire thing again to get myself back on the field.
That'd be great to see Jerry back on the field. Everybody's anxious to see him. He didn't play at all in the preseason. You saw, Tommy, that Steve Young, Jerry Rice, 75 touchdown pass. That's second all-time. Dan Marino and Mark Clayton had 79 third. Jim Kelly, Andre Reed, 65. I think we've had more than that. But at any rate, San Francisco's offense, as long as Steve and Jerry are on the field, it's great. But
well, for the first time, Chris, in many years, they have changed their offensive philosophy to some extent. They used to be a misdirection offense, the short passes to the back going across the formation, the hook area, control receiver, Brent Jones, an outstanding tight end, and then go deep to Jerry Rice. Now they have Jones, they have Owens, they have Jerry Rice and Stokes. They are now a spread offense, and as soon as you spread the offense, you are asking for pressure on the quarterback because you minimize his protection, open up some lanes to the quarterback. If the Jets today can dictate some defensive situations where it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 2nd and 9 or 8, they are going to go after Steve Young.
That'll be an interesting game, and we'll have it for you in prime time, of course. We'll see what the Jets cook up. Well, one thing the 49ers have cooked up for them is that everyone else comprises the soft underbelly of the NFC West. Nobody else in the division even finished at 500 a year ago, so suffice it to say, there's room to move down there. New Orleans is at St. Louis in a rematch of last year's opener, which saw Dick Vermeil's Rams beat Mike Ditka's Saints in both of their respective returns to the NFL. The score was 38-24. How long ago was that game? Lawrence Phillips beat up the Saints with 3 touchdowns. Now it's Greg Hill and others lugging it for the Rams. Billy Joe Hobart has his playbook memorized at quarterback for New Orleans. In the NFC West, also Atlanta at Carolina, where the Panthers are trying to pick up the pieces from their division title in '96 and their fall to 7-9 last season. Nowhere to go but up for Kerry Collins, who, as quarterback, lost his grasp a bit and lost his rapport with the team. He's trying to make amends. He'll work out of the West Coast offense this year with offensive coordinator Gil Haskell led to the Mike Holmgren Packers. The Falcons were the best-kept secret in the second half last year. They went 6-2. They have the ageless Steve DeBerg behind Chris Chandler at quarterback. You know who's coming next. White Shoes Johnson, or is it Fairweather Johnson? We roll on NFL Countdown.
Still to come. It was so long ago, Jim, you know, like 30, 40 years ago, it seems like. But yeah, he told me he called his own play on the last play of the game. He went over to the sideline for a timeout before the last play. The coach didn't have a play for him. It was time to go onto the field, and he called one of his old college plays, sprint left. He ran in the end zone, and the Saints won. So it was an exciting way to start off.
Could you see yourself doing something like that at the end of the game against Miami?
Probably not running one in, Jim. Maybe throwing one in would be nice. You know, he and I are somewhat different style quarterbacks.
Peyton, it's almost inescapable, the link with Ryan Leaf. It will follow you for your entire career. How do you deal with that?
Well, it's really not a problem for me. You know, if I take any time to get caught into that, to the comparison, that's taking time away from what I'm trying to do. That's try to help this team win football games. People are going to make comparisons, and it's not a problem for me. But I have goals and I have things I need to focus on that are more important.
All right, Peyton. Good luck to you.
Thanks, Jim.
As for the other rookie in the spotlight today, Ryan Leaf, I asked him his thoughts now that the big day is finally here.
I'm real excited. You know, the real season's here now. Luckily, I've been going through about 4 weeks of preseason, some things to get me introduced to the game of football, but I know the real deal starts on Sunday, and I know the guys are going to be coming after everything, and you know, they're jockeying for the playoff position now, trying to win as many games as possible.
Your image on the field, Ryan, some have said you're brash, some have said you're cocky. How would you describe yourself in the huddle and on the field with your teammates?
You know, Jim, I really don't like to, you know, compare myself or explain it. I think my teammates and my coaches kind of leave that up to them. They see me, you know, on and off the field, so you know, I kind of allow that up to them. But you know, I like the game. I love the game of football.
It seems like every story about Ryan Leaf has also been about Peyton Manning and vice versa, and you two are going to be associated, it seems, for the rest of your careers. How do you handle that?
I think you just handle it. You kind of dismiss it, and you know it's going to be there. And Peyton and I know each other pretty well and have a pretty good friendship, and you know, we know it's going to be there for a while. We just got to go our separate ways and do what is expected of us in our certain cities and our certain teams.
All right, well, Ryan, we look forward to watching you play for many years to come. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, they're certainly both gifted, and Ryan takes on Buffalo later today, back in your old hometown of San Diego. What are they saying about Ryan Leaf?
Well, I talked to his teammate, Junior Seau, and he said some great things about him. Matter of fact, he said he's not as cocky and as brash as everyone thinks he is. He's rather humble. But at the same breath, he also said that this is the guy exactly what they need in the huddle. He has an attitude, and he's ready to go. And I think he can play well if nature and means helps him out.
Peyton Manning will have the better rookie season, Marcus, for 2 reasons. One, he's running a similar offense to that he ran at the University of Tennessee. And also, he's got a better supporting cast at the skill positions with Ken Dilger at tight end, Marvin Harrison outside, and Marshall Faulk running the ball.
Perhaps we should defer to the coach here, fellas, because he says in the long run you might have the wrong guy. Who is that, Coach?
Well, he won't start today, but Brian Greasy, who also has a famous dad, is looking pretty darn good, and I know that Denver's awfully excited about this young quarterback.
All right, Coach. Coming up, we'll talk football with former Giants quarterback and our CBS colleague, Phil Simms, plus the much-anticipated comeback of the 49ers' Jerry Rice. After this message and a word from your local station.
Sometimes what you see...
Put his controversial past behind him, or hopefully not will history repeat itself. And you know, they've been showered with a lot of cash, but can Dana Stubblefield and Dan Wilkinson get it done?
There's no team in that NFL that should run 100 yards on its defense.
That's our goal. I said if we take that as step one, then we're going to win some ball games on defense.
Affectionately called Stubby and Big Daddy, these two Redskin tackles do indeed have talent, beef, and bucks. Between them, they had 20 sacks last year and now $57 million richer. Back with more after this.
One is Kevin Hardy, the linebacker. They think he's going to have a breakout year. And then there's Seth Payne, a defensive tackle, a fourth-rounder from Cornell. They think he is going to be a player. He was a fourth-rounder last year, Chris.
Got to get those Ivy Leaguers in there, you see.
Absolutely.
They really
I'm
can
taking
be
care
a
of you,
force,
baby.
definitely. Well, there's one on Buffalo Bills. That's not really what we're talking about Marcellus Wiley yet. They are two of the original AFL teams. But the Buffalo Bills and San Diego Chargers rarely play anymore. Here's proof. Jim never played, am I right, against the Bolts. Their last meeting was 1985. Andre Reed played in that game. His receivers coach, Charlie Joyner, caught a touchdown pass for San Diego. And it was before Marv Levy arrived in Buffalo. Now it's AM. After Marv, Wade Phillips assumes the reins. In 1985, Ryan Leaf, 9 years old. Now the Washington State gunslinger is expected to rekindle the passing embers of Dan Fouts and John Hadel. The Leaf era begins at the Murph. Let's rejoin Jaws for a look at his preseason. Was he beyond belief?
Thank you, Boomer. I studied Ryan Leaf on the coach's video throughout the preseason. I came away very impressed. And one thing that really jumped out at me was that Ryan is very mobile for a big man, and he also maintains great poise in the pocket.
Ryan Leaf is in the shotgun on the far right of the screen. The slot receiver on his left, Webster Slaughter, is the receiver he wants to get the ball to. Slaughter will run a crossing route at about 20 yards down the field. So Leaf knows he needs about 3 seconds, if not a little more, in the pocket. Right here, and you can see it more clearly from the end zone camera, Leaf will step up in the pocket. He feels there's no inside pressure. That's the awareness of a veteran. Focus downfield, good balance, and outstanding footwork. And hey, that's a 30-yard throw on a rope. Very Marino-like. 3 plays later, his inexperience shows. Again from the shotgun. You see there's separation between Leaf and his linemen. No need to step up. But here, he loses his patience and his discipline and moves up right into the rush, blocking his vision and his passing lanes. The result is an off-balance throw with no accuracy, and it's intercepted. These 2 shots really crystallized Ryan Leaf through the preseason.
You can see that awesome talent, but you can also see the inexperience. Throughout the preseason, he has seen mostly vanilla coverage. And I'll tell you, Tommy, and you know this, it's the regular season. The Buffalo Bills will mix up the coverage and try to take advantage of that inexperience.
Well, Jaws, the one thing that we know both Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning will not see are those 4-3 base defenses with a 2-deep and 3-deep zones. They're going to see every combination blitz package that teams can bring at them. They're going to see QBs disguising, cornerbacks and safeties disguising coverage. Here, Troy Aikman in his rookie year, you see the pounding that he took. That's our own Mike Golick making that second sack right there. Mike doing a good job of pounding himself on the chest after the sack. But Jim, the thing is, rookie quarterback, opening day, what's in their minds?
He is so nervous, almost like how I felt about an hour ago. But I'll tell you what, one thing Peyton Manning has going for him is he has some people around him, but not quite like he'd wanted. But Peyton Manning's going to be thinking of the running game. What should I do? What the defensive sets are? Who's going to be the strong force? But most importantly, the passing game. Is he in the right protection? Where's the strong side blitz coming from? And one thing, Tom, he's going to have to worry about is that blind side, because for a young quarterback, when you're dropping back, you're worrying more about what's in front of you. You're forgetting about strong safety Sean Wood coming from the blind side. Trust me, been there, done that, and felt that.
Yeah, and the one thing that we know is both of these young quarterbacks could be helped along, Boom, by a solid running game.
Well, that would help. They're hoping that Natron Means does it in San Diego as he did a few years ago, that he means some business in Marshall Faulk.
That's correct.
In Indianapolis. You can blindside him. Well, you know, rookie. Well, Ryan Leaf begins his year in San Diego. So does the only man drafted ahead of him in April, Peyton Manning. He starts his career at the Indianapolis Colts. They host Miami, who they blasted in Week 16, 41-0 at the Big Horseshoe. In fact, the Dolphins in Indy the last 4 years, let her cry. They've dropped all 4 games. How's this for symmetry? When Dan Marino came into the NFL, Archie Manning was still playing at quarterback. Now here's Dan still slinging in his 16th season. Here comes Archie's son, Peyton. How does that make Dan feel? Well, Michael, John Elway got his Cinderella season a year ago. Is it Dan's turn this time? And only would be fair.
It would be great to see that happen. And, you know, we have a lifelong Dolphins fan who's been in our brunch band. You guys don't do many brunch gigs, Darius.
No, definitely not.
You weren't really old enough to remember the Dolphins winning Super Bowl 7 and 8. But now, let me give you the title, America's highest profile Dolphin fan. Is it fun to get to be buddies with the quarterback of your favorite team?
Sure, Dan's a lot of fun. I've been following the Dolphins since Jake Scott won, you know, number 13. So I've been watching Dan for so long. Sometimes I feel like I probably can be him.
This is my Dan Marino picture. This looks just like you. This is you.
Tennis racket.
What's your favorite memory?
Oh, being on the stage with Hootie and the Blowfish. There's no doubt. I've done that a few times. It's been the highlight of my life.
Well, we did make you famous.
Yes, you made me famous.
We did make you famous.
No one ever heard of me before that video.
That's true. We took you to the pinnacle.
Next level. I went to the next level.
Is it enough for the class of '83 that Elway won his, or?
No, it's not. I mean, you look at it as that class of '83, and I think we were happy. You know, John and I are the only two left besides Darryl Green. I think that's the only 3 players of that first round. I was happy for John, but I wanted that opportunity also.
Would you ever consider backing somebody else?
Yeah, I've talked about being a backup singer in your band.
That's the only backup you'll be doing.
You guys won't let me do it. I don't think that I would really consider that, but you never know. I mean, I think if I was going to be on a team that had a great chance to win a Super Bowl and I knew I could contribute, it might not be on an every game basis, I might consider it.
Well, you know, there's always room for you on the bus.
Okay.
Like coming to hang out, man.
All right, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that.
Always room for you on our bus.
Thank you very much.
At any time. Seriously, let's talk football for a second, because you've become friends with Dan, talked to him a little bit. When the cameras were off and you guys were chatting, you saw a little bit different Dan Marino?
Yeah, I got to hang out with him last year, and just talking to him the other day, you could just tell he truly believes that he's got a team that, you know, might make some noise, can go somewhere. So that's enough for me. I'm in.
Well, that's a surprise. You're
That's
in.
enough for me.
Let's see how good your arm is. There's a tight end over there. Exactly.
Hey, guys, sing with him. I catch the passes. I like it.
Well, he's a South Carolina guy. We're going to go to his neck of the woods right after Sunday NFL Countdown. The track too tough to tame. Darlington, Pepsi 500. Jeff Gordon shot for $1 million. That's coming up at the top of the hour. But there's more Sunday NFL Countdown ahead, including more from the Blowfish and the Pats. Their running game, Ricky Waters.
They want me to carry the ball. I want to carry the ball. Everybody knows that. I still want to carry the ball, want to do well, want my team to do well. And I just think that here, they're going to give me the chance to show all the things that I can do.
Lose a guy like that, it has to be devastating. Now, having said that, I still think the Giants can be a good defense. Now, here's where Jason Sehorn played. He was the right defensive corner, and he would flop around, you know, and take their toughest receiver. Now, taking his place now is going to be Conrad Hamilton. Now, you're really not getting an inexperienced guy there because Conrad Hamilton used to play the third wide receiver, so he was really a starter for the last 2 years against the pass and nickel. So here's going to be the problem today. Now, Conrad Hamilton is going to play that right corner. Now, when the Redskins go 3 wide receivers, which they're going to do a lot today, now you're going to bring in Sean Williams. Sean Williams was the Giants' #1 draft choice. He was drafted to be a safety. When Sehorn got hurt, they had to make him a corner. Now, he's going to be a nickelback, but the Redskins know this. So they want to not only work on Hamilton, but they want to get that rookie in there and work on him. So they're going to be using that 3 wide receivers a lot on 1st and 2nd down, in addition to the 3rd down.
The key thing is that rookie statement, because they do have a way of making mistakes. But Jason Sehorn is here at Giant Stadium today, and he's down on the sideline now with our Susie Colbert.
And Jason, you're confusing people. You look more fit than ever.
I feel great. I get to ride my bike to the stadium. I get to work out 3 or 4 hours a day. I have nothing else to do now.
It's not quite the same thing. Your attitude through this whole thing has been incredible, and it's done a lot to uplift your teammates as well, but it is opening day, and you're standing here with me.
It's tough. You know, I am truly on the sideline now. It's a little difficult to keep the positive attitude when you know they're out there playing and, you know, the crowd's going wild, but you got to keep it going. You got to keep your, you know, your goals. I know I want to be positive. Let them know I'm positive and just try and stay that way.
Now, we wanted you to be a part of things, so we'd like you to throw out the first ball of the season. That
I truly get to be an armchair quarterback.
Yeah, and you've got quite an array of wide receivers over there. What do you think? Pick one.
See, now Chris, he'll catch it. So if I throw it to him, it'd be too obvious. I think we'll go with Terry.
All right.
So we'll see his athletic ability out here. Of course, we're gonna see mine too.
From a DB. They got a paid professional over here, and he's throwing it to you.
I'm telling you, Bella, it just goes to prove how great an athlete all quarterbacks are.
I don't want to hear this.
Terry, let me ask you now, if I'm one of the Giants, I'm just a little upset because most preseason prognosticators and publications have been picking the Redskins to win the East. Wait a minute, the Giants won it last year. Isn't their defense for real?
Yeah, I would think you'd have to say the Giants certainly are for real, but the fact that Wilkerson and Stubblefield went to Washington, they got those two great corners, two great tackles, and plus the fact that, don't forget, folks, last year the Giants did play a fifth-place schedule. Now they're playing a first-place schedule. And if you heard John and Pat talk about Williams and Hamilton, if I'm Gus Frerotte, I go after 41 and 36 all day long. And don't forget, the schedule in November for the Giants is absolutely horrible. Washington, Dallas, Green Bay, Philadelphia, and San Francisco.
You know, when you talk about this Giants team, the one thing is that Dana Stubblefield and Big Daddy Dan Wilkinson, I was expecting to see when they came over here total domination. I just really looked for those two guys during the course of the preseason to wear people out. But you didn't see that. The reason the Redskins have not been in the playoffs for the past 5 years has been their inability to stop the run. And if they don't pick it up today, they won't make the playoffs again.
Yeah, I'll tell you, talking to the Giants, they don't feel that they're worried about missing Sehorn on a down-to-down basis, but they will miss his big plays. Look for the Redskins to try to match Westbrook up on Conrad Hamilton, also on Sean Williams in the slot. He's a safety. He's used to attacking things going forward, not going backwards. For Donish on Strahan, big mismatch. They think Terry Allen hit him early. He's out of the game.
Great players don't play great defense in preseason, Chris. Sorry.
Going back to my play-by-play days, 41, of course, is Conrad Hamilton, 36 is Sean Williams. Looking out for my analyst in. All right, folks, a lot more coming your way on Fox NFL Sunday, including a look at the talented but controversial rookie, Randy Moss. He slipped in the draft, but, folks, now can the Viking wideout stay out of trouble?
During the draft, I was just wondering, where am I going? Then the Minnesota Vikings drafted me, and I was just relieved that all this hype and all this Randy Moss saga continues, whatever, and I was just glad it was over.
He's like, you know, I don't want to have to do that. I'm glad that you're here. You'll take a lot of pressure off of me.
I'm not getting any younger, and the more you throw, the more wear and tear it takes on your body. So if you can give the ball to a guy 20, 25 times a game, that takes a lot of pressure off of me.
It's not like I'm coming here to save this team or anything, or they, you know, they would be falling apart if it wasn't for me and things like that. It's just that, you know, maybe they have a void that I can fit into, you know, and I can stand in there, and they want me to carry the ball. I want to carry the ball. Everybody knows that. I still want to carry the ball, want to do well, want my team to do well.
Let's keep something in mind here. Dennis Erickson likes to spread the ball around. Last year, the secondary back carried the ball 30% of the time. That's the second most in the AFC. So, Sterling, let's see how much Ricky gets the ball, how he reacts when he doesn't get it, before deciding whether he's a changed man.
I think that's going to be the key, Sal, how he reacts when he doesn't get it. But one thing that Seattle has now is they have a very happy Ricky Waters. I think he's one of the best backs on turf in this league. And you see right here in a preseason game against Arizona, he is a guy that can stretch the field, run the ball inside, and now he's a lot bigger. 337 attempts his first year in Philadelphia, 62 catches. That is the production that Dennis Erickson is looking for. Regardless of what he does when he doesn't get the ball, at the end of the season, if he has these similar type numbers, the Seattle Seahawks will make the Denver Broncos the third best team in their division.
League doctors, he can wear a tinted eye shield. Other than that, no player can wear the tinted eye shield. And the problem is, if a player's knocked to the ground, he's injured, the medical staff has to come out and check him out. They want to see the player's eyes, and they really can't see through this tinted eye shield. Therefore, they're banning the tinted eye shield, and nobody's going to be able to do it unless they have special permission from the league doctors.
And I understand 4 players got that special exemption.
4 players right now, that's right.
All right, now Marcus, I hear the linemen and their uniforms are coming under scrutiny this year. What does that mean?
Well, any player found with any foreign substance on the uniform that doesn't allow a player to play fairly is going to come under scrutiny. There will be banners to the sidelines, and as a result, the league has implemented a system where they're going to randomly check 4 players before the game and during halftime.
All right, and the rule will perhaps notice more than anything a slight adjustment of the pass interference rule.
Yeah, Jimmy, you're still going to be able to have the 5-yard chuck rule where defensive backs can hold up the wide receiver for 5 yards. After that, downfield, no contact. They're going to be very aggressive about calling pass interference downfield this year, especially here, Marcus. You be the wide receiver. You try to keep up with me. And the defensive back, one of the classics moves, chop the arm, and then if a wide receiver, one of the other moves you see a lot is right here, the arm chop across the body to try and impede the progress of an offensive or defensive player. They're going to be very aggressive about calling this year. Michael Irvin, a classic guy for using this technique. He's been great at it. They might catch him a few times this year, and you're going to see this called this week.
You know, I've seen some tight ends that were pretty good at that technique also.
Russ Francis was great at it.
Yeah, no names, no names. Next, Bonnie Bernstein has the story of Pittsburgh's versatile quarterback, Cordell Stewart, when the NFL Today continues after this.
In last April's draft. The question is, will Moss be a success story like Warren Sapp or a disappointment like former top 6 pick Lawrence Phillips, who right now is out of football? And as Pam Oliver tells us, the answer is totally up to Moss.
He's Minnesota's new and electrifying offensive threat. Blessed with size, speed, and big playmaking skills, Randy Moss realizes people will be watching, if not solely for his on-the-field play.
No matter how good I do, how bad I do, there's something going to be about, well, the troubled wide receiver back in the 98 draft.
I believe he's a totally different person than the kid who got in trouble also. Anybody can get in trouble. Anybody.
I think he's going to look at the whole situation and tell himself he's not going to let himself down, and also his family and also his brother.
His big brother.
Yeah, his big brother.
Guess Big Brother will be watching in more ways than one. Until a new chapter is written on Moss, the old one will likely hound him like a pesky defensive back.
Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide.
We have someone who knows what it's like to begin his NFL career under a cloud. Tampa's Warren Sapp endured a draft day slide in '95, but has gone on to earn a Pro Bowl berth and a fat new contract worth $36 million.
That's the worst day of my life. As you know, I know it. I didn't run. I stood in front of America and said, I flunked 2 drug tests. I flunked one as a freshman and I flunked one at the combine.
Randy Moss, what kind of unsolicited advice would you offer him?
Know yourself. Keep your head and your heart in the right place, and you'll never have to worry about your feet.
Despite Moss's 4.2 speed, he couldn't outrun his troubles. 3 well-publicized brushes with the law before age 20 led to jail time and scared off many ball clubs.
The teams that passed on you, what is the thing they probably most underestimated about you?
I think my character. The coaching staff and also my teammates has got to know me for me, and not just as the thug or the fighter or the marijuana smoker.
He's a guy that had just turned 21 when we first started checking it out, and we felt that his future was very positive and bright.
He was Pittsburgh's 4th-string quarterback. Then Cordell Stewart emerged as the Steelers' ultimate utility man. He played quarterback, running back, receiver, occasionally even punter, and thus the nickname Splash was born. But Stewart always had his eye on being a full-time field general. Coach Bill Cowher knew that, promised that with patience he'd have his chance, and finally he did in 1997. Some of the strongest bonds are forged during times of adversity. Such is the case for a coach and a player in a blue-collar town. Last year in Week 6, Cordell Stewart threw 3 interceptions early against the Ravens. Many coaches would have benched their quarterback.
I'm not sure he really knew how things were going to go. And I just remember pulling him in, and I said, listen, you got us into this mess, and you're going to get us out.
And I'm like, dang, Coach, I'm frustrated because I know I'm better than this. You know, I shouldn't be out here doing this. But having the confidence in me that he did, it gave me the confidence in myself, because if he would have yanked me, that probably could have been the worst thing that probably could have ever happened to me. He was like, yeah, I'm going to do this, you know, it's no problem, this and that. And then that day of it, you know, he was on the bus and he was just drenched. I mean, all sweating and everything.
If Sapp didn't already like Randall, he certainly did after Randall set the market value for defensive linemen. In February, he signed a 5-year, $32.5 million contract. A month later, Sapp signed a 6-year deal worth more than $36 million.
In your heart of hearts, when you sit back and you look at what you're making financially, do you thank John for that? Oh, yeah, every day.
Yeah, I think he should. I think he will.
Talking about Randy Moss, he could, in fact, haunt a lot of people all season long. All right, folks, the question is, do you guys know which player delivered in the clutch most times last year, other than yourself? All right, time's up, folks. The answer is not John Elway nor Terry Bradshaw. The Packers, Brett Favre, the Jets, John Hall, and Miami's Olinde Mate all led the league in Pizza Hut fourth-quarter deliveries last season. And once again this year, we'll track the players who put their teams ahead for good by delivering in the fourth quarter. We'll be back with our fourth quarter after this.
What do you do now?
What would I do? 2nd and 5. Throw it again. To Jerome in the flat.
Is he your guy to get you to the Super Bowl?
Definitely. If he doesn't play well, the team doesn't go anywhere. I mean, he's where it starts. He's where it stops.
You're the bus, but he's the driver.
No question about it.
Yep, I'm driving the bus.
Yeah, he's a character. Interesting footnote on Cordell. Between his college career at Colorado and his time in Pittsburgh, he's had 7 different either positional coaches or offensive coordinators in the last 8 years. The most recent being Ray Sherman, the new offensive coordinator with the Steelers, with Chan Gailey going over to coach the Cowboys. Now, Brent, one of the big knocks on Cordell is that he's undisciplined, unpredictable. But, you know, there's some guy on the way to the Hall of Fame who you played with who kind of had the same tendencies early in his career.
Bonnie, when Steve Young came to the 49ers, he was an undisciplined quasi-running back. His first option back in the pocket was to always run. Shoot, his second option was to run.
And you say that because you're his best friend.
Of course, I can say that. And he knows I'm going to pound him all year. No, but actually, he developed into one of the greatest quarterbacks in the game, but it was a long process. Mike Holmgren settled him down, got him comfortable with sitting in the pocket, and I think that Ray Sherman's going to fill that same role for Cordell, and I see that he's going to continue to get better and better each year. And Marcus, I think he has a lot to prove today against the Ravens when he threw 3 picks last year.
Well, he certainly does, but to confine Cordell Stewart to the pocket is a big mistake. That makes him half the player. He must roll out, he must run quarterback draws, and he must bootleg. I mean, you take that away, it's like asking Mark McGuire to hit singles. And you can't do that. It's crazy.
You know, Baltimore's opening a new stadium today, and a good matchup here as far as Marchibroda and Harbaugh, because the last time they teamed against the Steelers, they were with the Colts, and they fell just short of the Steelers in the AFC Championship game 3 years ago. What do you think we're going to see here?
A little revenge, huh, Jim?
Could be.
I think the guys that want the most revenge are a couple of former Steelers, Eric Green and Rod Woodson. I think the tight end, Eric Green, is going to have a big day against his former mates. What about Rod, Marcus?
Well, the Steelers averaged 40 points against him last year. Rod Woodson bites on double moves. They're going to go after him.
Will that lead to kisses on the sidelines this year?
No. The players are telling me flat out they're all going to be wearing their helmets on the sidelines.
No.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Bonnie. Good to have you with us. And again, that game coming up to many of you across the nation, 1 o'clock Eastern time. The Ravens and the Steelers and the NFL today will continue in just a moment.
Now, get all the action of GoldenEye, Kobe Bryant in NBA courtside, the WCW versus NWO, or Diddy Kong Racing for new additions to the Player's Choice Library for just $39.95. Don't miss it.
Big Mac S60 and the biggest record in sports is in his sights. Slammin' Sammy is hot on his heels. It's a long ball Labor Day special. Cubs, Cardinals. Tomorrow at 1:30 on ESPN. It's a grand game.
Today's Small Inside the Numbers is brought to you by Visa, the official card of the NFL. It's everywhere you want to be. www.visa.com.
Let's go inside the numbers. When Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf take the field today, they'll become the 16th and 17th rookie quarterbacks to start on opening day since the merger of 1970. The other 2 times that a pair of rookie signal callers started in Week 1 were also the last 2 times quarterbacks went 1-2 in the NFL draft. In 1993, first overall pick Drew Bledsoe and second pick Rick Meyer opened for the Patriots and Seahawks, respectively. And in 1971, first overall pick Jim Plunkett and number 2 Archie Manning started for the Patriots and Saints, respectively. Of course, this is nothing new for the Colts, as their Manning will be the 4th rookie quarterback in the last 26 years to start for the franchise on opening day. His predecessors all met defeat in their debuts. But that's no great surprise. The bad news for Manning and Leaf is that only 4 of those previous 15 rookies won on opening day. But the good news may be an omen for Peyton, whose father Archie was one of those winners, beating the Rams 24-20 in 1971. Immediately following NFL Countdown, we head down to
the offensive line in terms of protection. But when they need to make the play, Kevin, they're going to go back to running the ball inside hard. I thought that Emmitt Smith got back to how he used to look, running inside tough later on in the preseason.
All right, Ron, but which Emmitt should we expect to see? Only 4 rushing touchdowns last year. Chris Warren out, so it's all on Emmitt.
Well, Emmitt's mad about all the talk last year. Yeah, he went over 1,000 yards, but he was hurt a lot, and he got a lot of criticism. To me, he wants to get back and prove to everybody that I can still get the ball down the field. And he's doing that with the acceleration I've seen late in the preseason running. But the key is run the football, give him the carries.
And Emmitt will be Emmitt.
Emmitt will be Emmitt as long as they give him the ball.
All right. Good news for the Arizona Cardinals. They signed Andre Wadsworth, 6 years, $42 million.
NFL Countdown is brought to you by Nike.
We've had music, we've had fun, and now, drum roll, please. Actually, I didn't tell Stoney this. Drum roll, please. We're going to have Super Bowl predictions. Mike, you start.
This is Marty's year. Chiefs, Vikings.
No, Mike. If you want to find out who's going to play in the Super Bowl, tune in to this network, Week 16, Jacksonville, Minnesota. Vikings win that game, but in January, Jacksonville takes it. Sorry.
Minnesota, Kansas City. Minnesota, Kansas City. Elway repeats, retires against the Vikings.
You're a smart man. Broncos over the Vikings.
Vikings. Yes. San Francisco.
And the Bills.
Pittsburgh. San Francisco fan. We've had a great time. Hope you have too. We'd like to thank our friends Hootie and the Blowfish. Good luck with the disc coming out in a week. Go in the stores. Check it out. Mike Tirico, Mort, Sterling, Jim Kelly, Tom Jackson. I'm Chris Berman. Rock on.
Spectacular view of Soldier Field on a beautiful day in Chicago. A new season with